Chapter 18. Mallory stepped inside her Ford feeling encouraged, a wide smile on her face, and this time she headed in the direction of home. She switched stations from the talk radio podcasts to a rock station playing a song by Coldplay. She loved that song, A Head Full of Dreams, and she dared to sing along with the band. "I enjoy that song too," came a soft husky voice from behind her. She glanced into the mirror with a frown. She didn't see anyone. She continued driving. Maybe it's the wine, she thought. She probably had too much. "Do you like Sam Smith?" When her eyes left the road and she glanced beside her, she had a passenger. "What the fuck? How did you get in here without me seeing you?" Mallory's voice a cold, hard whisper. "Why, I can go anywhere I want without anyone seeing me. Especially at night." "But I don't understand." "Trust me, you wouldn't." "Why have you come from Jovani's apartment?" Mallory tried to keep her eyes on the road, but it was getting next to impossible as she turned to Sasha to ask a question. "What are you doing in here?" "My question first." "Now answer me," Mallory said, her voice this time demanding, as she grabbed the wheel and turned it heading into oncoming traffic. "You mustn't do that. People's lives are at stake." Sasha turned the wheel back to Mallory's car lane. She exhaled, trying to keep from panicking. "I don't care about you humans, and you, I care even less about. I know your mind. You think you have a chance with Jovani. Did he tell you what he is?" "A man. A very rich man. I'm not after his money." "Of course not. There's more to him than his money. Has he made love to you yet?" Sasha asked. Her voice mockingly cool but with a slight choke, taking on the sound of a jilted, jealous lover. "No. And don't tell me you don't want that either. It wouldn't be genuine of you to say that. If you did, we can stop this right now, because I would be able to see through your pretense. The longer you humor me, the longer you will live tonight." "What do you mean?" Mallory asked. She indeed wanted to humor her so she could get her gun out. She would have to plan the shot just right so as not to hit anyone in the cars traveling alongside. Slowly she eased her gun from its holster and took that shot, pressing it against Sasha's side to muffle the sound. And then another. And another. All she heard was the laughter beside her. A chilling, sick laughter. "What do you think you were doing?" Sasha asked. "Aren't you a detective? Don't you know that some of those killings were by Jovani? Your instincts took you to his doorsteps, but his charm clouded your judgment. And you didn't have enough information. Now I'm going to give you the last piece of the puzzle if you haven't figured it out by now." Mallory glared over at Sasha, her eyes searching her. "He is a vampire," Sasha said. Mallory. "A what?" "You heard me. A vampire, and I'm his wife. And that makes me a vampire too." "This is ridiculous," Mallory said. "I never took you to be a stupid bitch, but you are. You're too stupid to live. How is it you can shoot me with your gun and I'm still sitting here as calm as could be talking to you?" Mallory thought about all that had been said to her. She thought about the killings and how the men were drained of their blood before being discarded. She remembered how in each case the men had been a person of interest in cold cases. Now she put it together. "What is it you want from me?" Her voice shaky and her mind unbalanced. "You're in love with a vampire who can't return love to no one. Not even that young woman Hannah." "What do you know about her disappearance?" Mallory asked. She was nearing her home, and if she kept her talking and a little distracted, maybe she could slow the car down and jump out and evade Sasha. "I didn't know she had disappeared, but I will find her." "Maybe I can help you find her," Mallory said with a smile. Sasha smiled at Mallory. "Then I would have to contend with two women as rivals." "I think not. It's better to rid myself of you." You're more of a threat. Jovani will see that it's useless with Hannah, and I suspect he will get bored with her, and then leave her. But then he appears to be obsessed with her. Sasha spoke as if Mallory wasn't there, and then turning away from Mallory, looking to her right at the New York skyline. It was time for Mallory to make her move. She slowed the car but forgot about the seatbelt, and when she opened the door to throw herself out, it sent her back, and Sasha slammed her foot on the gas pedal, took the wheel directing the Ford into an oak tree. When Mallory had her first night of happiness and her last night, Justin had his first night of contentment with Hannah without Jovani looming over them as an unexpected snowstorm raged outside. When Hannah woke, she looked up to see Justin standing gazing at her. She sat up, her head resting against a pillow, and said, "This is weird. You looking at me as if I need protection, and all I can see is maybe from you. Why are you standing over me? I wasn't looking at you because I want to make love to you. You've got it wrong. But I do want to make love to you, but not unless you want me to. I had just put some wood in the fire, and I wanted to make sure you were warm and safe. There's a snowstorm outside and I wondered if you were comfortable, and since you are, I'm going to go out and hunt." "You're going to do what?" She stooped to look out the shuttered windows. "There's blinding snow out there. It would be enough to stop a man, but what I've been telling you and you haven't accepted," he paused, "I'm a werewolf. I'm half man and half wolf. I think I get that now. It took me some time to process that, but I get it." Justin wondered just how much she believed him. "I warmed some soup for you, and when I return we'll have fresh meat. Do you know how to cook?" "Of course, but I'm not sure I'll be able to cook fresh game. I've only cooked meat from the grocers, and fresh meat is completely different. I'll probably need to hold my nose." Justin chuckled. "The cooking is for you. I eat my meat raw. You will need fresh meat to keep you strong. I don't know how long it will take to get out of here, because the snow is quite deep. I thought we would be here a week, and it looks like longer." Justin saw Hannah's face grimaced at the thought of cooking what he had killed, or was it staying longer than a week with him? She will get used to it, he thought. After all, his mother, who is human, had gotten used to being around werewolves and their behaviors. After asking his mother over and over, she finally told him about her first meetings with his father and his uncles. It was a great adjustment, but she loved it later. Therefore, he assumed the same thing would happen with Hannah. But then his mother hadn't been pursued by a vampire. "I'll return later before dark. Don't let anyone in." Who would she let in? The big bad wolf had already entered, she thought. Hannah watched as he walked out of the house with nothing but a flannel shirt and jeans, and in his side leather bag he carried his shoes. But he wouldn't need them, at least not yet. Scurrying out of bed to watch Justin through the window as he tramped through the deep snow, Justin disappeared behind a group of large trees, and then all she saw was his footprints in the snow along with hoofprints of an equally large buck. Chapter 19. Justin had tracked the large buck most of the day. He lost time of how long he had been out in the blinding snow. As soon as he thought he had come close to finding the deer, the snow covered the buck's tracks, and the way the wind shifted it affected his sense of smell. The wind whipped around, blowing the snow and cold air in his direction. He had to lower his face and kept pressing on. He had been persistent. That was his strength, his father would tell him. But you have to know your limitations and know when to give in. Bend before you break, Lysel told him on one of their hunting undertakings in search of fresh meat. Justin never knew when to give in, and he wouldn't learn that lesson today. Soon he caught sight of the magnificent buck with its wide, dangerous antlers, standing in a meadow near a half-frozen mill pond. As he crept up behind him, after shifting to a large black wolf, he had his sights on the splendid deer. Justin felt sure of himself as a hunter as he crept in that direction without the buck suspecting he would soon become the werewolf's food. The deer would make for good eating for a week or more. With one more step, and ready to pounce with the wind on his side, the deer never heard him coming. That was all it took for Justin to make one bad step, and the trap had been set, and he was the one caught in it. This trap was meant for a wolf. Not a werewolf, but nonetheless, it was a trap for a wolf's paw, and it caught Justin. When he glanced down and felt the pain, the snow had concealed his paw buried deep within it. Where he stood, he could see the snow turn pink with his blood. He pulled at the contraction with his mouth and sharp teeth. He had never seen that type of trap. When it didn't come undone, he tried again, but it tightened on his leg, and each time he moved, it appeared to be slicing through the fur to the bone. Letting out a loud wolf cry, the sound reverberated. Justin began gnawing with his incisors at the perfect trap to make a wolf bleed out, and eventually die. When Justin finally got himself loose, he tried to walk, but his paw bent under, and the whole ordeal became so painful that he limped in with each step. He glanced upward at the trees, looking at the snowfall. If he changed to his human form, he could freeze in the cold, and that didn't guarantee that he could make it back to the cabin before dark. His only salvation was to remain as a werewolf, and hope he didn't come across a pack of hungry wolves. Struggling to walk, weak and hungry, Justin turned around to head back to the cabin. He remembered his father had warned him about hunting alone, and especially when he hadn't made any markers to find his way back. The clouds overhead had made it especially difficult to judge where he was. It was a stupid choice to hunt alone in a forest he knew little of. Justin earlier stumbled on a smaller deer, but he made the choice to hunt the largest one. A male deer with wide, dangerous antlers. It was more of trying to be part of the pack and bring the enormous buck down to show his brother that he was a true hunter, and not just someone who house sits. And he didn't even have a mate, and if he didn't make it out of this forest, he would never have the opportunity to bring Hannah home to meet his mother. Because he was the youngest of the Samsa offspring, his mother had sheltered him. She became afraid that he wasn't cut out to have a life like the others. Some of the Samsa werewolves had fought bears, tangled with lion shifters, and were panthers, not to mention humans, but not Justin. His only claim was that he had fought a bobcat. His mother had said that he could be proud of that, because he was still a yearling. His father, Lysel, said that wasn't enough. He had to prove his grit by at least taking down a buck, then he would a true hunter. And Justin couldn't do that without falling into a trap. A trap that probably would take his life if he couldn't figure out a way to survive. Each painful step proved more difficult than the next. But he carried on mile after mile. His fur caked with ice where the blood had oozed down his leg. He stopped for a second to look at his leg, and he could see the bone. It was a good thing it was cold. The freezing temperature would slow the loss of blood, and maybe he could make it home. When he thought he couldn't go any further and would have to bury himself under the snow to stay warm, he spotted a cave. He remembered his older brother Hunter telling him that is what he should do if he found himself without shelter in the snow. Hunter had survived in Alaska when he had been kidnapped. Justin hobbled inside the cave to rest and seek shelter from the snowstorm. It took him 15 minutes to make it there, and it was only a few feet away. Reaching the mouth of the cave, he sank against the walls and curled up with his head under his paws. He thought of home in Samseville, he thought of Hannah, and how he had wanted to take her home with him to meet his mother. His father would be a hard nut to crack, but he would come around because his mother had a lot of sway over her men, his father, Lysel, and Lysel's 2 brothers. Especially Wilder because he was the first to mate with his mother. All the Samsa men had their mates. All except him. When Justin's hunt came to an end, Jovani began his night hunt.